It's the most wonderful time of the year for fantasy football, but really for dynasty football because where seasonal just gets to monitor what's happening right now from a what do I do in September, we get to monitor the next couple of months because that's what do we do in April and what do we do in May. So a lot more instant gratification and a lot more fun. But we have officially kicked off draft season with the combine taking place last week, which means all those rookie picks and all those other wonderful things are going to start being worth a lot more attention. The other part of this is, of course, that free agency is about to get going here, and franchise tags is starting to get thrown around. That's impacting some valuations of a couple of players. So it's that fun off-season time that we all enjoy, and frankly, the reason we play Dynasty. So we'll go through some of the things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. But I have a crack set of team with me here: the Eagles, the Giants, and Broncos. Gentlemen, once again, I appreciate you making the time.
Yeah, always fun
Happy to
to
be here.
talk football.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, one of the things I love about this league, beyond the engagement from others on the podcast, is of course um, the knowledge and the analysis that goes into some of the different aspects of this. So, first and foremost, big change we've had since our last podcast is the addition of an analytics channel. Um, After becoming clear that the Lions and a number of other teams are very skilled and very talented as it comes to data analysis, it comes to our league and football, it made sense to have something like this available for stuff to get posted in. So again, I appreciate everybody who's contributed. Some of the first content outside of just the stuff that was posted by Lions was, of course, a couple of mock drafts, both in terms of the NFL as well as a NFL GMs focused mock draft. So some of this was pre combine, some of this was post combine. But let's get into some of the thoughts here. So if I look at the pre combine mock drafts that are in there from Colts and Titans, um, definitely looks like that Bryce Young was the unquestioned QB1 and CJ Stroud was the unquestioned QB2. Now, obviously, because we have ears and we're paying attention to things, everyone has heard that Anthony Richardson, aka AR-15, athletically destroyed the combine this last weekend. So I'll throw it out there to the group here. Here he was the seventh pick going to the Raiders in the Colts mock draft. In the Titans mock draft, he was the 10th pick going to the Buccaneers. It looks like. Does your opinion of what order the top three go in change based off of the combine performance that Richardson had?
No.
I mean, I kind of
I think my
I
Right,
expected all
RJ, why
this.
don't you go first?
Yeah, I expected I expected it to happen. Like, I if you've listened to the podcast, we've all discussed him a couple of times. We knew he was an athletic freak. We knew he was going to show off at the combine. Um, I kind of assumed that it was basically a four quarterback race, and I don't really see any of them making it past like 7 at the latest, 7 or 8.
The biggest
Cool.
loser was Bryce Young. Like, out of all of it, he was the biggest loser, in my opinion, out of the combine. But yeah, I mean,
Didn't he measure out well?
like height weight wise,
Yeah.
I mean, no, he was 5'10" 5'10" and 204. He was basically exactly what Tyler was. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Stroud showed out. Richardson obviously did as well, but you know, I think all it did was make it more of a guarantee that either Indianapolis or Carolina is going to trade everything they have to get up to 101 for whichever one of those two they want. But I don't know. I just don't see Bryce Young being the lock that he was, so to speak, to be the first quarterback, and that might be a mistake. But yeah, I think he had the biggest loss out of the group of four.
All right, so Brandon, what are you thinking about first the AR question, and second in terms of Bryce Young? I think it's let's answer the first one, and let's get to the second one.
Yeah, I mean, what I was going to say was my opinion of the top three didn't change because of Anthony Richardson's, but it did change because of Bryce Young's measurables. I don't think Bryce Young goes number one.
Can I just ask, what did everybody assume his measurables were going to be?
6 foot. I think there was definitely some hope that he could be 6 foot.
I think the bigger concern was that he was going to weigh in under 200 pounds.
Yeah, like I tip my hat to him because he actually he put on weight to get there, but I mean, he obviously can't make himself grow taller in a matter of months.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are just concerned that no matter what his success was at Alabama, that he's not going to be what he should be to be considered for the top pick, whereas you have the prototypes in Stroud, Levis, and Richardson that you don't have to worry about the size. They can take the beating and keep going.
Right. It's so in terms of AR, we were talking about this a little bit before the pod really started getting going. I've always tried not to give extra credit to players who do what you think they're going to do. And I think, as RJ said, we knew Richardson has been an athletic freak the entire college season, his entire college career. I think maybe there was some surprise that he was going to be this athletically gifted in terms of his measurables, but I'm not going to give him a special extra credit here, but that said, he's definitely a top 10 guy for me. The Bryce Young stuff, it's challenging because when you look at, and the Ringer had a really good article about this week. If you look at where he lines up on the spectrum, and the closest comp to him is Kyler Murray. And there's probably some comparability there, but that's an outlier. If you look at first round successful quarterbacks, it's basically Kyler Murray and no one else at that height. So it becomes a question of, do you believe he's going to be an outlier and he has the skills to be an outlier at a quarterback at that height, weight, and sort of body makeup, or is this going to be a problem? I think he's going to be one that we really look at who takes him. I think his landing spot is going to be more important than basically anyone else. If he goes to a team that historically has required kind of that 6'4", 6'5" prototypical quarterback, he's in trouble. If he goes to a place like, and again, this is purely hypothetical, like Baltimore, where when they drafted Lamar and they said it was going to be Lamar's show, they brought in San Francisco's offensive coordinator who worked with Colin Kaepernick the year before to be his offensive coordinator. They changed their offense. They changed their playbook. They lined everything up to make him successful in that role, and he has been. If a team's willing to do that, I think he belongs in the conversation as the 101. If not, he's going to have some problems.
I mean, if a team's willing to do that for him, I can kind of view like the same production as Kyler. It's just a matter of like, will a team do that, and where on the scale of like their peak to valley did Kyler land, and like does he land higher or lower than that? Because like obviously there's room for improvement with Kyler, but there's a ways of like worse play that could be had, and if a team doesn't completely buy into a player like that, then you won't even scratch the Kyler numbers.
He also, I mean, I know he's the same size as Kyler, but like he's a very different player. Like he's not explosive athletically like Kyler is. And I mean, I just remember, I mean, I'm excited to see his pro day because like I just remember watching Kyler Murray throw and I was just like, that dude can sling it. Even though he's short, he may not be able to see over the line, but like,
right,
I think he had a lot more going for him than Bryce Young does.
And the comp I think is more appropriate than Kyler is Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
There's mobility, but he's pass before he can throw. I'm sorry, pass before he runs. He's still going to run for 600, 700 yards because he can, but he's the kind of guy you get in the pocket, you manufacture throwing lanes for him in the pocket, or you roll him out so you don't have to worry about blockers in front of him so he can see the field. Like that's what you do when you let his accuracy and his just common sense take over.
Yeah, I don't view him and Kyler as similar as far as athleticism. The only thing that I view comparable is like passing output because they both have the same type of struggles. And like I don't think this is the era to be, not being able to see over your offensive line or having to build your offensive line in a particular way to where your quarterback can see over them.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, the question then becomes, and I'm just thinking in terms of college stuff here. One of Saban's selling points is I can get your son to the NFL because everyone wants Bama players. This will be a break in the continuous, Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, Tua, etc. of Bama players as a pipeline that you're our star quarterback. You win a Heisman here, you go to the NFL and crush it. Like, if we're concerned about Bryce, does that potentially start throwing a wrench in some of Saban's recruiting techniques?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's just like he's more of an outlier. Like nobody's doubting the fact that he has like exceptional arm talent and he is a good quarterback. It's just measurables, in my opinion, are the biggest thing.
Yep.
Like, and I don't think you doubt the pipeline or like the coaching at the college level and that because sometimes you just go with the most talented player and you do your best to make it work.
No, absolutely. All right, let's get to the next topic here of what's changed from the combine. So Bijan once again seems to have solidified. I don't think there's any real competition that he was running back one.
He's a lot slower than I expected.
Well, I don't think that's going to matter.
But he's still a monster.
The item 2 from the combine, it seems Gibbs has fully solidified himself as running back 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'll throw this out there. A, has Gibbs solidified himself as running back 2? And who's running back 3?
Gibbs is definitely running back 2. 1 and 2 is safe. I mean, based off of hype, I mean, you could make the argument that that Chain made it all the way up to 3, but I don't know really how well like Tucker and Evans did, but I didn't watch the combine all that much. But all the hype seems to be around Devin Achane.
Yeah, I've been a Charbonnet fan for many, many years. So
Yep.
He's who I have as running back 3 right now because I think he's got the most potential to be a 3-downer, but I could very easily see him slip to the 3rd or 4th round and into a depth chart and never emerge. So that's the worry I have with this running back class. Bijan looks incredible. Gibbs looks like Kamara. 3 and beyond, you could see guys pop out and be extraordinary, or you could see guys just completely fade to obscurity very quickly.
I like the other Texas running back. He looked really good, and he's very prototypical running back. Rashawn Johnson.
Yep. No, I've heard good things about him through some of the stuff on Twitter, but granted, I'm still getting up to speed with this draft class.
Yeah, I'm not overly impressed with like the running backs as a whole. But I do think 1 and 2 is a lot better than the 1 and 2s we've gotten in a few years.
Yeah, Gibbs is a little bit more reliant on where he lands than Bijan is, but I think he'll be fine, like regardless. But the argument could be made that he needs the right system to be very successful.
No, I like him. I think he's a better Travis Etienne.
All right. Let's go to wide receiver here. And don't worry, I'm not going to do this for everything. I'm just going to do this for a couple positions, and we'll get to the fun stuff. I don't think anyone's going to argue, based off performance in the combine, JSN has solidified himself as wide receiver 1. Again, now the question becomes wide receiver 2 through, I'll call it 6, is wildly up in the air for me, because every single wide receiver who tested had, I would call, a flaw. Not a fatal flaw, but a flaw associated with their workout, but was either above average or wildly impressive in some of their testing. So I guess it's a question of, there's something for everybody in this class, but how large is your wide receiver 2 range at this point? Again, if you disagree that JSN is wide receiver 1, by all means, let me know. But from 2 to whatever, how large is that range for you based off of how everybody's testing?
JSN's slightly ahead of everybody else for me. Not very defined number 1, and then it goes from 1 to 11. Pick whoever you want. They all look fantastic. They all have flaws. Like none of them are necessarily NFL ready, but Josh Downs, Rashee Rice, Mingo, Hutchinson, the 2 Tennessee receivers, Boutier,
Johnston.
Addison, Flowers, JSN, and Johnston. Whichever one you want out of those. They all look like really good players to me.
Everything is going to be determined for them by landing spot. Like JSN is definitely wide receiver 1. He may not be the first wide receiver off the board, like as far as like the NFL draft itself goes. But I mean, as far as fantasy value, I don't think you can get much safer than JSN just because of his insane route running ability. But I mean, and the guy just doesn't drop passes either. Like I wish he had played in 22 more than he did, but that can't do anything about that. But no, I mean, like wide receiver 2 for me, I don't know. I mean, like RJ said, take a pick, just pick one. I think the guy who probably lost the most was Booty. He just didn't seem to perform well from what I saw and read. Like he kind of lost a lot of value, and he probably has the most to gain out of his pro day. If I'm wrong, let me know.
No, he's more of a hype product. Like he's very hyped, and he's never really lived up to the hype in any way, shape, or form since he got to college. Like his production's never been like out of this world. He's he's lazy when he runs routes, especially when he knows he's not an option in the play.
So he's going to live up to his last name then.
Yeah, he's average height, average weight, average hands, average 40, below average route running. He's just
He's booty.
No,
Well, again,
he's not a bad player, but he was expected to be like above average in these things.
there's still something to love, though, about his combine profile where it says name pronounced Boo Tay.
Which makes it even better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think everything I understand, like Zay Flowers gained a lot of traction because he just like what did he add, like 13 or 14 pounds of just pure muscle.
Yeah,
And, like,
he's 5'9".
Yeah.
He has
He's-
the arms of a toddler.
Honestly, like the guy that I would want out of the group after JSN, like I would trade down until I felt comfortable with it, but I would want Tillman. I think he's pretty fucking incredible.
I want Tillman if I can also have Jalen Hyatt on the team.
Hyatt, yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, I really like Hyatt.
They're both really good together. I'm scared to see what would happen when they're like broken apart because I think they complement each other really well.
Yeah.
They're both really good at being the 1B.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see one of them going to Minnesota if they actually do move on from Thielen.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. Get the taller one. Is that Tillman? Tillman's
Yeah,
6'3",
Tillman's
right?
6'4" or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I'm interested to hear you say this because the player I've looked at so far that just screams RJ to me is Josh Downs.
That's fair. I like Josh Downs.
I mean, he's got like phone booth athleticism. May not have, running in short speed that everyone's looking for, but you look at any situation, he's getting the ball on screens, he's getting on slants, he's getting on out routes, on fly routes. Like he's running everything, and I feel like he's going to be interesting. I feel like he's going to be one of those guys that goes day 2 or 3 that overperforms wherever he lands.
Yep. I view him and Rashee Rice in the same way. Like they're exceptional wide receivers when they get mass amounts of volume. So if they're the type of player that you can get 110, 120 targets to in a season, like they're going to be the best version of themselves.
Yep. All right, last position, then we'll move on to the mocks that we have. What the hell do we do with tight end?
I mean,
Wait
there's
till next year.
ones.
When they're productive in 2 years, we can talk about it.
I mean, it's Meyer, Kincaid, and Washington, and everybody else just doesn't matter, right?
I mean, I heard somebody say that they thought like 7 or 8 of them could come in and produce at the NFL level.
I'm sure they can, but like combine wise, nobody gave a shit about anybody other than Darnell.
What is it? Josh Wiley was pretty decent.
Okay.
Cincinnati tight end. He looked a lot better than expected. Schoonmaker, the tight end in Michigan,
Okay.
and there's one more.
Musgrave. Did anyone keep an eye on him?
He did fine. He's massive. Like he's a monster. I think he might just be a blocker though.
All right, fair enough. I figured
he
with
hasn't-
some of the testing numbers, we would have some hotter takes there, but I'm okay waving on those. So let's go to the Panthers mock, which is I think the only one we have right now that actually shows up for GMs. So I guess kind of going through there, a big surprise for me is, of course, my trading up from 8 to 4 to get Anthony Richardson, which no. But anyways, anything from a player perspective you see that's sort of out of sync from where you expect this person to go
With Panthers,
with the Panthers mock? Yeah,
with the mock, I felt that it was incredibly light on running back.
No, I don't think they're. I think he has too many.
I mean, he has 1, 2, 3. He has 4.
4, yeah, that's not too many. I think once we have landing spots, like some of these like 3rd and 4th round running backs are going to be of interest. I expect at the end of the round.
Sorry, he has 5. I apologize.
Zay Flowers went pretty early.
But I mean, the obvious one is Stetson fucking Bennett. He's not going to be a first-round pick.
Depends on where he goes.
He's going to be an undrafted free agent.
What if Tampa Bay doesn't draft a quarterback until the 5th round and they take Stetson Bennett?
No. He's still not going to be a first-round quarterback.
You say that, but who were first-round quarterbacks last year?
In our league, Pickett and Willis
No.
and Ritter.
Yeah, Pickett, Willis, Ritter.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at it. It's easy to figure out, I guess. We just go look.
Those are the only 3 that were first rounders.
Yeah.
Then Howell and Carroll went probably in the 2nd.
No, Howell didn't go until
Howell was a 3rd, I believe.
Mm.
Okay, first round was Pickett, Ritter, and Willis. Corral was a 2nd. Howell was a 3rd. Strong and Zappy were 4th, and Purdy and Skylar Thompson were 5th-round picks.
man. That Purdy pick was a steal.
Not anymore. He only gave him 2 fucking years, and now he's screwed. God, Dolphins extending Hurts killed everything about those extensions for rookies.
right.
I think we see about 10 to somewhere between 10 and 13 wide receivers go in the first round.
For sure. With how deep this class is, absolutely.
Yeah, the tight ends, I wonder if they don't go as early as they go here.
Whatever the one guy is, the first one that Bill likes.
Michael Meyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy from Halloween. So he's the only one that has a possibility of being a first round pick, similar to the one from Arizona last year.
Yeah.
Trey McBride.
McBride, yeah.
I don't know. I think that if Kincaid lands in the right spot, like I've seen a lot of mocks that have him going to Cincinnati, I could see him getting into the first, maybe not at the top 20, like Panthers has him, but I could see him getting into that end point.
I feel like if Darnell Washington goes top 40 or top 50 based off his combine, somebody's going to take a shot at him in our first.
I can agree with that.
I mean, he's not going to be a good fantasy tight end. They're literally lauding him for him being like a blocking tight end, like with unrefined offensive potential.
Yeah, but he's
if
like
you take that
6'8".
Sure, but like you take that in the first round in this league, he's not going to put up meaningful fantasy points for like 3 years.
Oh, at least.
If he goes, what if he goes to a place like New England? They clearly have no tight end there, no matter how much they paid those two.
No, because Brady's not there anymore. So New England tight end position is not necessarily an immediate value.
It's very simple where he's going. With their first pick in the draft, in the 3rd round, the 49ers are going to take Darnell Washington.
He won't be there. That would be fun, but he won't be there.
No, what are you talking about? They're going to trade Trey Lance and get a whole bunch of picks before the 3rd round.
No, Purdy's not going to be available until the middle of next year, so Lance is going to go.
Says he's going to be good to go by September.
Oh, I thought they were getting Lamar.
Well, I mean, considering they're in, nobody else is in on Lamar.
No one wants
they
Lamar.
might be the only team.
But no, in the mock, the reason I had the tight ends go as high as I did is just simply one of them's the Pats, and the Pats is the Pats, and he took a safety in the first last year, so God knows what he does. And then I had Kincaid go to the Jets as high as I did, just for the simple factor the Jets has like a shit ton of picks, and the offense is pretty much flushed out for him wide receiver wise, and just why not take the good tight end talent to sit on and just not worry about anyone else taking him before you in the second.
Yeah.
He's just one of the people that had just so many picks that you can spend a little bit of a premium for a premium position if you like the guy enough.
It's a lot of edge players, though, that's for sure.
Well,
There's a
that's
lot of good edge players in this class.
and that's something that, and I'm glad you did that too, Panthers. Is when I was trying to do my own mock, I wasn't looking at yours, but one of the things that is a potential loophole this year that teams will probably try to take advantage of is if the current NFL players are locked, but the players that come in from the draft are in their true position, that means you're going to be able to find DNs on those outside linebackers like a Will Anderson, like a Tyree Wilson, and many others who are really good edge rushers this year who might be outside linebackers but still carry a DN designation. I think we're going to see 4 or 5 rookie outside linebacker / edge players who might be linebacker otherwise, but based off the interpretation of the current rule, players they take because DN is going to be a stretch this year until we go to true position, and these rookies can help fill a lot of those gaps.
Yeah. And, you know, part of going back to what Bill was saying right around the time I joined in with you guys on the live. So, you know, it's got a little bit delay onto YouTube. But the whole Bennett and Hooker thing is just simply, you know, we saw people last year, like RJ kind of pointed out, will reach for these guys that seem like they're potential QBs. The thing is I actually think Hooker and Bennett are a lot better passers than some of the guys we actually get drafted in the first last year. Doesn't mean they're good. Like Bennett is probably going to be a career backup or the #1 car salesman in the state of Georgia, but you know he'll probably still end up going in the first, or he'll go high second, especially depending on landing spot. I personally want to see him go to the Giants and fight Daniel Jones because I don't think Daniel's got a much better arm than Bennett does. So
Hooker
I
was
think
the
that'd
guy
be
I was
fun.
hoping the Giants would draft, but no, I think that's gone.
Yeah, Hooker looked really promising. As you know, especially last year at Tennessee, being
Yeah.
25, he's probably not going to get a great deal of draft capital invested in him. But if he still lands at a team like the Commanders, where it's like, well, he only has to beat out, you know, Sam Howell, or no, yeah, that's Howell. That's like it. He very well could, and that could get you late first round draft capital.
I love your takes.
I'm not saying I'm going to be the dude who spends the first round draft capital. Just someone could.
I think that
And also, when you get down to the point to where you're putting Keandre Miller and Jaden Reed in the first, you're starting to run out of people that have immense value anyway. So
No, fair enough. And again, it's with everyone with their positional, I'll say, proclivities. One of the things that I'm interested on is with the transition in true position, are there some players that make their way into this first that don't there otherwise? Like you have me taking Drew Sanders, and full disclosure, if he makes it to me at 130, then yeah, I'm slamming that button. There's no question in my mind with the number of linebackers that are going to transition from linebacker to other positions, how scarce that position gets. If he gets to 30, it's done. No question. Thank you and welcome to my team. But again, I wonder what's going to happen with some of those looking ahead positional placements. It makes me wonder, okay, look, nobody loves D tackle. Got it. Some of the DNs that have been 3-4 are going to transition to D tackle. Got it.
yeah, well, you know, even some of these guys I have projected as edges, depending on which team they go to, could actually be D tackles. Like Derek Hall is like a 273-ish D end.
Yep.
That could easily be either one. I think he could do either one. The same argument could kind of be made for Foskey, especially early on. If he goes somewhere that wants to develop him more, they might just use him as an interior third down pass rusher. So It's hard to know exactly with some of these guys.
And
Like some of
again,
them are more obvious. Like Will McDonald's more than likely going to be a 4-3 edge. Zach Harrison 4-3, but
So I think the one thing I'll say here is at 130, you can either take a shot at Stenson Bennett, or I'm surprised that, and again, nobody loves D tackle. Jalen Carter at that rate is going to garner some interest. I think he makes it into the first round this year
Yep.
because, yes, he's got the issues associated with law stuff. Reading some of the lawyer speak on Twitter makes it seem like it's going to be less of an issue, just based off of the nature of the charges and natures of the investigation so far. Could it get worse? Absolutely. But like at some point when you're taking a shot at a player, and I know I had a very unpopular opinion about this last year. Excuse me. You're taking a shot at a guy like Stenson Bennett, which you have a 20% chance on hitting on. Why are you taking that guy over a guy that you have a chance of, like an Aaron Donald or a Jeffrey Simmons or someone like that? Like,
well, when you do hit though, and you have that Jalen Hurts, look at what that can. It's just the cost. Like if you do hit, like you get a quarterback who goes out there and does have like top 15, top 20 fantasy seasons, you could have spent the 3rd overall pick on like a Kenny Pickett, and that might be the best Kenny Pickett ever does. It's just if you can find a starting quarterback on a rookie deal at that point, it's kind of worth the gamble. But it is definitely difficult though when you do have the perceived value of other players.
Yeah, if we're talking about like how DE could be deeper for the rookie class now, same can be said like the DT position could also be even deeper. And then looking forward, right, like there's going to be an influx of 3-4 DNs who are now going to be defensive tackles. So like those points are going to be a little less hard to come by.
Yeah,
for Carter.
Yeah, and you also have other guys that I'd even put on here, like Yasir Abdullah, the kid out of Louisville. Depending on where he lands, he's probably going to be used as an edge early on until he develops into a better linebacker, and that could be another just great steal to have. I honestly do not like this linebacking class compared to last year's, but
yeah, I know people are saying it's pretty light too. It's like there's a couple folks at the top, and then it's sparse.
even the guys at the top have attributes of their game that's really raw. Whereas last year, I drafted a lot of them. I knew that they had quite a bit of raw elements, but the upside that they had in athleticism was a lot higher than even what this class has. The athletes in this class weren't that tremendous outside of Simpson.
Yep. Granted, you do have my current target at 130, not in your first round. So that is encouraging to me.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions about the mock or thoughts about the mock that we've seen so far? Again, I do appreciate you putting this together, James.
Oh, it was a quick scramble. I didn't even put the 117 in there. That's a 31 pick draft. It's more of an NFL mock than it is a league draft mock. But it's more so for me. The early mocks are to get the names out there, so the people that don't necessarily pay as much attention have somewhat of an idea of who might be in there, and they don't end up taking a safety at like pick 14 or 15 or 17, 18, whatever.
I'll get him some decent rankings way before
But
that.
yeah.
Again,
we should probably do a
it's the
couple
first step.
PSAs. Yeah, like no corners, safeties, maybe DTs should be considered in the first round.
All right, so let's move to the trade conversation. I think the last trade we covered was it the Ty Chandler trade.
First one that we should be doing is you and Bill.
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah, 110.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So near the end of the pod last time, after all the shit that went towards Bill for his 2 quarterbacks, I thought to myself, hey, I wouldn't mind having 2 young, cheap quarterbacks in starting positions, even if they're not incredible. So I sent him an offer around this, and then Bill being Bill, wanted to make sure you got TJ Watt as part of it, so it expanded to this. So was Kirk Cousins, MVS, Jonathan Franklin Myers, and TJ Watt for Sam Howell, Desmond Ritter, Corey Davis, Yannick Ngakoue, CJ Mosley, and Josh Uche. Again, I'll just kind of go from my perspective on this. I would rather have the two young quarterbacks in the starting positions than Cousins. I think MVS to Davis is about equal. Both cuttable receivers who we're going to figure out where they land after this, and I like Davis's prospects based off his draft capital versus MVS's. Ngakoue versus Myers, I think, is an upgrade, and then Mosley and Uche replaced Watt's production at linebacker for me. So I think it makes sense for both sides, but that was my logic. Bill, why don't you share your view on this before we let the broader group comment?
No, I think that this all worked out kind of nice. I mean, Ritter and Howell, like, I genuinely believe that they are going to be the guys going forward. For me, this was a lot about TJ. This was a lot about more not worrying about the certainty at quarterback, and that kind of deal. So it also ended up like freeing up a little bit of cap space for free agency purposes as well. But the main part was just taking the uncertainty out of quarterback, regardless of how much belief I have that Howell and Ritter are still going to be the guys.
All right, boys, fire away.
I laughed because Bill's saying it kind of worked out nicely. Yeah, it does when TJ Watt suddenly becomes a defensive end after next year.
Yeah, that was the craziest bit too. The very next day, all this stuff changes.
Yeah, which is awkward time. Mike, I feel like you've been on the losing end of a couple news breaks within 24 hours or so after you make a trade. Either league news or player news in real life. But based on your teams, I get it. I don't think that Corey Davis is equal to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I'm pretty sure he's still in KC for the next 2 years. Or at least, I don't know like how much real money he's got left, but it was a 3-year contract.
MVS is no longer a Kansas City Chief as of right now, and he is a free agent.
Oh, okay. Well, I definitely missed that.
That's my understanding of the situation. It could be completely wrong, but my understanding is the only guy they have right now is Tony.
I'm trying to look it up real quick because I was pretty sure that he was trying to recruit someone to the Chiefs the other day. But
you're probably trying to bring Lazard.
It was, yeah, that was what it was, yeah.
MVS hasn't been cut.
Okay. Then don't listen to me.
But yeah, just I'm pulling up Mike's roster here. I mean,
there was rumors about it because he did have like a $9 million in cap saving possibility to like a $2 million dead cap, but they just surprisingly went to Orlando Brown and said you're fat and you can hit free agency, and then they went to Frank Clark and said you can renegotiate or you can leave. So they got rid of both of them. But I don't really blame them. They might trade up and just take DeJuan Jones, perfect, just replacement for Orlando. Don't have to pay him.
Well, who was it that just got cut from Tampa? They're starting.
Donovan Smith. Yeah,
replacing with him.
I think they said they're trying to get a long-term left tackle in place. So yeah, I see them drafting someone or signing someone long-term. But I mean, ultimately, like outside of the position change that like kind of adjusts the structure of this trade a bit. I mean, I think like Josh Uche is really good. He's on a 1-year deal, so Mike will have to trade him to someone who can extend him or just franchise him, I guess, and hope for the best. But I see the win on both sides here.
I would much rather have the two younger quarterbacks than the older quarterback with the smaller window. I'm not a big fan of paying a premium for TJ Watt either, but I don't look at Bill's side and like feel that he gave up, huge pieces. Maybe Yannick was the only thing. Like I don't like the downgrade from Yannick, who's a starter, to Franklin Myers, who's just in a rotation with a bunch of young guys. It's fine. I prefer Mike's side of it, but I don't hate either of them.
Isn't Yannick potentially leaving the Colts?
Yannick is currently a free agent.
Yeah. So that could be interesting to see where he lands and if that starter tag will hold. I just honestly, this is going to end up coming down to, does one of those two quarterbacks keep a starting job? And I don't believe either will beyond next season.
It will be interesting, but Yannick just finds a way to always land with Gus Bradley, and Gus Bradley's still in Indy, so I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back somehow.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Yannick was a great piece to like consider as holding, but I don't know. I've never really held like the name value of honestly either of them, JFM or Yannick, in like high regard, so it didn't really make a huge difference to me. And then at the end of the day, it all evened out for next year. So just a lucky end result there. But just looking at it from what it is, like TJ as a linebacker and all that, I still feel okay with it.
You could kind of argue the position change doesn't hurt Mike that much because you still have Uche, who would be a defensive end in the new context, and then DJ Mosley obviously staying at linebacker. He kind of like nets a linebacker out of the deal. And I like Yannick better than John Franklin Myers. So you got two D ends and a linebacker for two D ends.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, this was primarily just based around not having to worry about whether Ritter or Howell will start.
Yeah. I don't believe either of them are long-term starters. So, like, I think you win the trade just based off of that. But if one of them hits, in a year, we might be looking at this being like, damn, that was a huge, huge win for Mike.
Yep. And again, sprinkling risk at the right time. Speaking of risk, let's talk about the next trade. Jags gained 114 for Chase Young and Charles Omenihu. So, look, it's well known that I'm a 49ers homer. I'm not touching Omenihu with a 10-foot pole because of everything that's going on with him. And this is going to sound terrible saying it. The domestic violence issue he had where he pushed over his wife. I feel almost desensitized to, because of the NFL at this point, but like pushing over your wife, I feel like is on the very vanilla level of issues that have been domestic violence issues within the NFL recently. So, but still not touching him. And then Chase Young, I think he went at 110. So 114 right before you have to pay him when he hasn't been able to stay on the field. This, again, felt expensive to me, and I feel like you guys agree.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. This, I said this whenever it happened. Pat's found a sucker. I didn't know about Omenihu having, his legal issues until right before this even happened. But Chase Young is not worth a first anymore.
I don't know if he's not worth a first, but not worth a mid-first until he proves, because I don't know exactly how expensive he's going to be, but I assume he's going to be around 15 million or so, which isn't horrible, but like he's also played, like 5 games in the last 2 years. It's also a little awkward because of the potential position changes for the Jaguars. He's got a lot of pass rushing linebackers. So like DE, future state, going to be less of a problem for his roster. Again, obviously, I think that this trade happened before that news broke, but that was kind of another unfortunate development, I think, for his side of things, and it might have changed how he would want to utilize that 114 pick.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of surprised that Pats is acquiring current year picks. I'm sure that he's going to trade out of every single one of them in an effort to prove the entire league wrong. But I'm surprised that he's going with current year because he could have just asked Jags for 2024 first.
I mean, I think he'll have an easier time moving either that pick come draft day or whatever players he ends up picking ahead of the season than he might for some of the folks he had left on his roster.
I think the big thing here is this really hurts Jags. Like the true position change is going to hurt him more than anybody because he already had Bosa, he already had Judon, he already had Smith. Putting the 14 into a guy who will also just be an edge next year. That's he's about to have all edges and not a single linebacker on his team.
Yeah, but we have to look at all these trades as like nobody knew this was coming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I get it. I'm just saying he's just another one of those where he just got a bad luck roll.
Yeah. There's a ton of teams that got screwed on the linebacker side. Like, but the cool thing is we all know what we're looking at. Like, we all know who stayed for the most part. We all know who moved. So it's going to be nice. And he's got a shitload of DNs. He can move a bunch of those guys if he decides to be more active.
Yeah. He's just going to have that problem of probably trying to move defense for offense, which I think will be a challenge for him.
Yeah.
There's not enough offense to go around in this league.
Correct.
All right, moving on. Pat's given up on Christian Harris to lower his points as well. Getting the 209, the 403 back. I think he spent a late first on Harris last year, so this is almost equivalent value, if not a little bit light.
No, he was a second rounder.
So pretty much 1 for 1. But Chiefs adds another linebacker for the price that was spent on him last year. Any major thoughts here or keep moving?
Nope.
I think James hates Harris.
I'm not a huge fan of his. I really like now that D'Amico Ryans is there, but he's not my favorite. But he's got a great coach, so great coaches can make a lot.
Yep.
He's a pretty talented player. Just needs the right
he
place
needs
and
to-
the
yeah.
opportunity.
Well, he's got a coach that should be able to help him.
Yeah, he was bad last year, but yeah, great hire.
All right, so then we got MVS, Devin Bush, 324 and a 322. I'm sorry, and a 24 fourth for Minka and 330. Which, if we're talking about, I think the early second, I think you're looking for James. Maybe this feels a little bit light, but I understand the why, especially considering you dump Bush on Giants for nothing later. So realistically, it's the cap dump, MVS, and then an improvement on your third with a fourth for Fitzpatrick, which, again, I see the benefit of it, but I guess maybe I'm not the biggest fan of MVS.
It's a safety. I looked at the free agent market, saw who's available, the draft class, what's coming up. I'd move up my third. I have a comp third coming as well. I have a comp fourth coming as well. It's going to be easy for me to draft the safety position. I didn't see myself in a position to add more wide receiver points, and I got more wide receiver points. So
I consider it a win for safety one.
you're not wrong, but I don't know. I just don't value that position very high. It's just simply, as I told you, if you have someone who's good enough, there's no reason to get rid of them for free, because now I have to go do the groundwork and find another.
No, I'm totally fine. Honestly, my surprise out of this offer was that you were going to take Devin Bush back.
I figured I could move them for something and or nothing, and I tried selling them, couldn't get any buyers, and I don't have to pay him. Giants gets to pay him, so I'm cool.
Right?
Yep. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of MVS his game, but the opportunity is a deep threat in Kansas City still is at $1 million or whatever is pretty good. I look at this like I wouldn't have done this deal for Derwin personally, and I think Minka and Derwin are in the same conversation, but yeah.
That's okay. That's the value difference between safeties between the two of you, though. Safety might mean more to you than it does to James, because he's made no bones about it. He doesn't value corner or safety.
I'm not a big fan of this deal all around.
Everyone lost.
Yeah,
That's okay. I'll take it.
I don't understand the trading for Minka.
It's a homer thing.
It's like the eight pick movement in the second or in the third round means nothing to me. So it's like MVS and a 4th round pick for Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I think it was nonsensical to just give Bush away. I would have just waited until the end of the preseason to see if he still had a job, like a starting job. Like it doesn't cost you anything to just be patient.
That was my thinking with just taking him for free. I was like, he's an explosive player. I'll hope he lands somewhere good.
I think you both made hasty decisions, and neither of you gained any value in this.
I also got 10 million in cap space.
The thing with the cap space is like, yes, you want cap space going into free agency, but like everyone has.
Oh, I
Oodles
know.
of
I've
cap
already
space.
said, we have
Yeah.
30% of the total cap available, over $1 billion. It's just,
Yeah.
I just believe that I can find a safety point replacement. So,
Yeah.
like it's safety. Like if you just go back and look at last year's draft, we didn't have our first non-Kyle Hamilton draft pick of a safety until like the late 3rd. I'm gonna have 2 picks in that ballpark.
For Lewis Cine went 301, I think, or 302, but yeah.
If you told me that I was a half decent team and you were going to give me MVS and a 4th round pick to have to do the legwork to find a starter at any position, I'm going to say no.
Oh, it's $1 million receiver. I think the question just comes down to what's easier, finding wide receiver points when you're out of 1st and 2nd round draft picks and you have like 12, 13 million in total cap, or to go find another safety.
So I'm going to say the opposite of what you're probably expecting, but I think it's easier to find receiver points because of how many are playing in any given game versus one safety.
Well,
I mean,
Paris
I think
Campbell goes for like 25 million. Let me know.
At this exact point in time, I think it's easier to find a safety. Like the one smart thing about it is this trade was done before free agency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, even
Alright.
Kevin Byard's available in our league.
Let's move on. All right. I won't spend much time on the next one. It's 3 trades. The Lions going wild. He mentioned in the last podcast that he was interested in consolidating some fifths, so let him do that. He also was able to trade a 4th down in the next 2 trades. In the future, 424 for Carolina's 24 4th and 422 for the Raiders 24 4th. So we won't spend a lot of time there. We've already talked about Bush for nothing as a dump with a potential upside for Giants. So I see that. We have 419 and 515 for 402. Nothing crazy there. And then
I think the 17-point jump there is not nothing for like the 515, which might be a skipped pick.
I think that's true. I think that might be a bit of an extra jump that wouldn't be expected otherwise. Again,
So
I
that
can
could
see
be
it
the
was like
difference
410 to
between-
419, but yeah,
Yeah,
half a round is big.
I'm not sure exactly who went in like the early fourth in our last draft, but generally there's like one or two couple of guys that like make it into the fourth. You're like, ooh, I maybe would have taken them at the end of the third. But by the time you get to the end of the fourth or middle of the fourth here, they're probably gone.
All right, and then last but not least, of course, with both James and I on here, trading C.J. Mosley to the Panthers for Justin. I'm never going to get the last name right, but
Madubuike.
James, why don't you go first on this one?
He's turning into a D tackle, and I don't really value the position next year. And this was just simply a, Mosley took a whole year off, so I feel he's got a little bit more game left in him. Plus, he's got a crap ton of money still wrapped up in dead cap for them to get rid of him. And I wanted a linebacker for this year. I feel long term, he's a really good player. So
He's a good player. He'll be a D end for this year. So that'll be a nice asset for this year. But yeah, him moving to D tackle. I mean, think of this for next year, right? You're trading a D tackle for a 31-year-old, $10 million linebacker who'll be 32, I guess, by the time the next season starts. Like that might be fun.
It's also he did take a whole year off though, which is I'm kind of minusing one on his age just because he does have one less year.
I mean, less snaps on his
work on
body, sure,
yeah.
but like as someone now in their 30s, like your body still ages.
Yeah,
He
well,
also-
I know. Yeah.
He also played for Baltimore and worked his way up through the system. So you say he took a year off, but he probably physically needed to take that year off, or he wouldn't even made it to this point.
Only other aspect is he's going to be a very attractive cut for the Jets next year. So yes, I agree. Justin's moving from D end to D tackle. I fully expect him. I fully expect him to be on Baltimore going forward, and I expect Mosley to be cut.
Yeah, for what I like, for what's happening and the fact that he's going to be locked in at the end for the rest of the year, I like this trade. If it would have been for their actual positions, I wouldn't have been a big fan. But to like tack a year onto both of their ages and then change their positions, yeah, big fan of this for Mike.
Yeah, Mosley has 15 million in dead cap this year, and he has 10.5 for next year. If they do cut him next year, they get 10.5 back, but it's still a big bite.
Yeah. It depends on how much they have to pay Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that would be the deciding factor.
All right, so that gets us through what we wanted to get through here. A little over an hour, which is I feel like what we usually shoot for. So now becomes the fun part. I see a couple of folks commenting in chat and in the comments here. So appreciate that. If you want to join in for some of the post-pod conversations, if we can get some more deals done, that would be excellent. But again, I appreciate everyone for joining. As always, I appreciate the comments and the content that everyone generates. I think we've got a lot more thoughts and news that are going to come and flow in as we get through draft season and as we get into free agency. But this is just going to be fun. So appreciate you all, and let's keep the fun rolling.